the stuff I'm reading about Wells Fargo now, and of course you and I have talked about this for years. You've literally written the book on this. The Wells Fargo thing, I think we spoke about what they were doing. I can't remember if it was on this program or Ring of Fire, where Wells Fargo, I think people know this story, 3,500 employees were fired because they supposedly...
5,300 actually.
5,300. They all went rogue and had the same idea of taking existing clients who were buying one product and, without telling them, signing them up for another product and charging them, and because of quotas. Well, the last thing I heard, and then I want to talk about the story that you've written out, but I also want to talk about your piece in response to Ta-Nehisi Coates. But the thing I heard about this, which really just blew my mind, was that Wells Fargo is arguing that the arbitration clause that they signed in their contract with people who are doing business with them. So I go in there and I open up a bank account, let's just say, and the fine print says, if you have any problems with us, we're going to go to arbitration. You can't take us to court. And they're now claiming that that arbitration clause is binding to the accounts that were fraudulently set up for them.
That's correct.
That's
correct. And they're winning on that argument.
It is
court.
So insane. It is literally like me saying, like, hey, I have an arbitration clause in this account that you signed up for at bank. And yes, I went to your apartment and I stole your TV, but we can't tell the cops, so we got to go to arbitration about it. It's crazy.
They decided to make it a blanket agreement, and a fake account that they signed off on with a fake signature has a real binding arbitration clause, apparently.
That's insane. It's insane.
Yeah.
But talk about the. Talk a little bit about the what's going on with Credential and but also,
this latest thing is that in addition to the products that Wells Fargo sells by itself, it has some partnerships where it sells products in conjunction with other companies. And one of the bigger ones is Credential. They have a partnership to sell term life insurance through the Wells Fargo website and also through in-store kiosks. Now, even if there wasn't any hanky-panky being done with this, listen to this. Now, normally when you get life insurance, you need to go through a physical exam. You need to have some proofs as to your personal health and things like that. They set up a program where you could go to a kiosk in a Wells Fargo store, answer about 10 minutes or 15 minutes worth of questions, and get life insurance. Like that quick, with no physical medical exam, nothing. You could just grab life insurance, and it was low cost. To be clear, it was like $300 a year in premiums, but I'm not sure that it's the best life insurance. Let's just say, and who knows what kind of exclusions and exemptions there are embedded within that.
But you're gone anyways. What are you going to do? Complain?
I find problematic. The product itself is weird. But, just like they did with their other accounts, Wells Fargo employees would get credit towards their sales goals if they sold some of this Prudential life insurance. Or I shouldn't say sold, because bankers are not allowed by law to sell insurance. The steering of these people toward the kiosk or toward the website is what they would get credit for. But what they were doing, just like they were doing on their other accounts, is they were signing people up for this life insurance without their authorization.
Well, but they're not selling it.
Because they're not allowed. And in fact, what they would do is they would, there were different variances on this scam, but they would sign people up and then take them off and then sign them up the next month, and on and off and on and off, getting credit toward the sales goal each time they signed them on to the life insurance. So this was found out because Prudential decided internally to do an investigation into, hey, Wells Fargo's having these problems. Is there anything going on with our life insurance partnership? And sure enough, these individuals at Prudential found all of these problems. I mean, and it was very obvious because the people signed up had addresses that said Wells Fargo Drive on them, as if they lived at Wells Fargo Drive. And they had email addresses that were johndoe@wellsfargo.com. So it was painfully obvious that people were being signed up without their knowledge for this life insurance. However, and this is what's interesting, when these individuals at Prudential in the sort of internal affairs department of Prudential brought this up to their superiors, they all got fired. And there is a whistleblower lawsuit. This is how this all came out. There's a whistleblower lawsuit going on right now where these Prudential employees are saying that they were retaliated against for giving this information about the fake accounts to their superiors. Now, since this has come out in the New York Times, Prudential has suspended the My Term, which is the name of the life insurance, the My Term campaign with Wells Fargo. However, they haven't closed the My Term insurance at all. They just suspended it pending an investigation. Prudential has the same kind of partnership with other banks. And this is kind of amusing. One of them was this bank called South Carolina Federal Credit Union, and I put them in my story, and some PR head from South Carolina Federal Credit Union wrote me and said, please remove us from that. We only did that once 3 years ago, and we no longer are in partnership with Prudential. And I wrote back and I said, well, why do you have a link on your website that says sign up here with Prudential My Term Insurance in an exclusive partnership with South Carolina Federal? And they wrote me back and said, that was an oversight. We've since taken that down.
Wow, that's quite an oversight.
Yes. It was an oversight that for 3 years they were still promoting.
Kevin, are you updating the blog? Oh, my God.
Anyway.
Jeez. So wait a second. What kind of internal controls does Prudential have that they may be, that they didn't notice that, like, wow, this is, or they just like, well, we take the money and are they actually getting money?
Worse than that. They found that in the first year, this partnership.
Now, one thing I want to make clear to people.
Started in 2014. In the first year, 70% of the policies lapsed. Like, don't you kind of look? Hey, why are 77% of these policies lapsing if they're being sold through Wells Fargo?
So now, wouldn't the Wells Fargo people do the initial deduction from the Wells Fargo account to pay for it, and then the problem is that
that's a good question. It's unclear how many of those deduction things were set up through people's bank accounts. There is evidence that at least one person complained that these deductions were being made from their bank account, but it's unclear whether that was set up in every case, and that's something that requires some more investigation. If so, this would be almost potentially a bigger issue than the fake account scandal, which there weren't a lot of deductions from people's accounts involving. That was more about claiming sales growth so that they can tell investors that they're a growing company. If they were doing this in this Prudential partnership and taking the money out, that would actually be a bigger transgression with respect to consumers.
But of course, they've signed an arbitration clause, so that's okay.
Right. Well,
if we're stealing your money, we're just going to have to arbitrate.
That'd be a good question if it covers, if you have an account at Wells Fargo, does that cover arbitration on Prudential products as well?
Wow. Hey, it's Sam Seder. Why don't you subscribe to this channel? You can do so right over here.
over, subscribe.